Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamakyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapadakamalaam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve gaura-vane Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Mancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrindami Hari Priya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome everyone to Saturday Sanga, speaking from
Hare Krishna.
Central Poland. And okay, somehow I got muted. Welcome everyone, and nice to see you all. And we can proceed. We're gonna, I think today is gonna be some Chaitanya Charitamrita discussion. And we're also going to have, well, we're going to have an initiation, a second initiation, Brahman initiation of Dhyana Chandrika and Hari Vyasadeva, mother and son. So I will be saying a few words on that topic. And well, guess what we can do now? We can sing. And we can sing the, this says Siddhi Lalasa, song number 1. Okay. From Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura, from his Gitamala. And it's another song of expectancy of anticipation. Translation, this is Kabe gaura-vane. When, oh when, will I wander here and there, weeping under the shade of the trees and creepers along the banks of the celestial Ganges River in Navadvipa? I will cry out, "O Radhe, O Krishna," and I will completely forget about all the so-called pleasures of this material body. When will I be able to live so simply by begging some food from the homes of the untouchables who live here and there? I will drink the water of the saraswatī, and in ecstasy I will roll to and fro on the banks of the river, raising a loud uproar of Krishna, Krishna. When will I bow down to all the inhabitants of the holy land of Navadvipa and receive a bit of their causeless mercy? I will smear the dust of the Vaishnava's lotus feet all over my body, and I will wear the dress of a mad, wandering mendicant. And finally, when I factually observe that the transcendental land, here in this translation, it's misspelled. It says lane, it should be land. When I factually observe that the transcendental land of Navadvipa is non-different from Sri Vrajabhumi, then I shall be transformed into a Brajavasi, also a resident of Braja. Then I will see the true form of the transcendental realm opening up before my very eyes, and I will thus become Srimati Radharani. So now we're getting into some big anticipation of spiritual perfection. This is Siddhi Lalasa, the longing for perfection. All right, how do we do this now? Kabe gaura-vane suradhunī-tat Radhe ha Krishna bole Kabe gaura-vane suradhunī-tat Radhe ha Krishna bole kāńdiyā dibo deho-sukha chād nānā latā-taru-tale kāńdiyā deho-sukha chād nānā latā-taru-tale śwa-paca-gr hete māgiyā khāibo pibo saraswatī-jala śwa-paca-gr hete māgiyā khāibo pibo saraswatī-jala puline ā-gad dibo, kori Krishna khāibo, puline puline, ā-gad dibo, kori Krishna khāibo, Dhamma-vasi jane pranati koriya māgiyā kripara lesha. Dhamma-vasi jane pranati koriya māgiyā kripara leshe. Vaishnava charan renugaya maki gaura-vane desha. Vaishnava charana renugaya maki gaura-vane desha. Gauda braja jane vedana dekibo hoibo bharaja basi. Gauda braja jane vedana dekibo hoibo bharaja basi. Damera sarupa spuribe nayane hoibo radha dasi. Damera sarupa spuribe nayane hoibo radha dasi. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Haribo, 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 Gaur, Haribo, Nitai Gaur, Haribo, 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 Gaur, Haribo. Kabe gaura-vane, suradhunī-tat. Let's see, how are we here? Okay, we're still online. And we can go here. Yeah. Kabe. So the question word again, Kabe. When? When, oh when, gaura-vane, in the forest of Gaura, rather than Vrindavane, this is gaura-vane. When, oh when will I wander here and there, weeping under the shade of the trees and creepers. Kāńdiyā is weeping, and nānā latā-taru-tale, in the shade, tale of the latā, the creepers, and toru, the plant, the trees. Along the banks of the celestial Ganges River, suradhunī-tat. Tata means the bank, tatasta shakti, that's what we are. And suradhunī is a name of the Ganga, a very nice name, celestial Ganga, the river of the gods, suradhunī. I will cry out, ha Radhe, ha Krishna, bole. So calling out, Radha, O Krishna. And I will completely forget about all the so-called pleasures of this material body. Deho-sukha chād, giving up. Deho-sukha, the happiness of the body, the body pleasures, the body happiness. And this word, ā'bo, I'm not sure, ā'bo, is this forgetting? Maybe Deva Shirarika can tell us. I think I saw you here. ā'bo, where did she go?
I'm here, Lord Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Ah, yes.
To be honest, I'm not sure. I'm sorry.
Oh, kāńdiyā ā'bo. Okay. It's not usual Bangla, I guess. Okay, then śwa-paca-gr hete. Śwa-paca means literally dog, cooker, one who is cooking dog. In other words, it's a standard term for what comes to be called untouchable, outcast, considered very low, practically less than human. And griha, of course, means house. So śwa-paca-gr hete, in the houses of such untouchables, māgiyā, khāibo, māgiyā, having begged or having prayed for, having begged for khāibo, I will eat. So I will eat the food of the untouchables, which is a very unimaginable thing in Orthodox, Brahminical culture. He's saying, I'm looking forward to doing this. Pibo, saraswatī-jala. Pibo, I will drink. And saraswatī, the river Saraswati. And, well, my jal means water. I will drink the water of the Saraswati. So my understanding is that what is now called the Jalangi River in Mayapur is also known as the Saraswati. So, in other words, just living in the most simple way. Puline, gaura-vane, dibo. Kori, Krishna, ā'kolāhala. I will drink the water of the sun. And in ecstasy, I will roll. I will roll about to and fro, it means back and forth, on the banks of the river, puline, raising a loud uproar of Krishna, Krishna. Kolāhala means loud roaring. So puline, gadi, I guess means rolling back and forth. Dibo, I will give. That might apply to Krishna ā'kolāhala. Krishna ā'kolāhala dibo. Kāńdiyā, having rolled around, not quite sure of the word order here. Then third is Dhamma Basi Jane Pranati Kāńdiyā. The Dhamma Basis, the residents of the Dhamma, Jane, to these people, pranati, offering obeisance, kāńdiyā, doing the pranati, doing the offering of obeisance, māgiyā, I will beg for what? Kripara lesha. Lesha is small fragment, something very small, just a trace of kripa, kripara lesha. Vaishnava charanarenu gai māgiyā doriya avaduta vesha. Let's see. I will smear the dust of the Vaishnav's lotus feet all over my body. So māgiyā, I guess, means smearing. And correct me if I'm wrong, Devashi Radhika. And Doriya Avaduta Vesha, I will dress in the clothes of an avaduta, of a wandering mendicant. And the final verse, Gauda Braja Jane, Bheda na dekibo. So Bheda means difference. We have our philosophy of achintya, Bheda, abheda. So here Bheda, which comes from bid, which means to split, to cut through. Beda na dekibo, I will not see a split, a difference between Gauda and Braja Jana. Between people, well, here it says the land of Navadvipa and Braja, but I think it's Jana would be people. In the people of Gauda and Braja, Hoibo Baraja Basi. Hoibo, I will become, future tense. Baraja means vraja, adding a syllable, and vasi means a resident. Vasa is to reside, vas, and a vasi is one who resides. Hoibo baraja borojo bhasi damer sharup spuribe noyane hoibo radharadasi. The swarupa, the actual form, the original form, dhamera, of the Dhamma, spuribe, directly contacting, directly experiencing. How? Nayane, in the eyes. So in other words, directly seeing. Then I will see the true form of the Dhamma, and the grand finale, Hoibo Radhara Dasi. I will become a dasi, a servant of who? Of Radha, Radhara Dasi. So he's having some very big anticipations here. Starting out with lots of anticipation of becoming the lowest of the low, so to say. He's picturing himself, and we can see this. We sometimes talk about affirmations. So here's this whole song is a big affirmation. I will see, I will do, I will chant, I will directly experience. But it's beginning with, I will cry, kāńdiyā ā'bo. And māgiyā khāibo. I'm going to eat even the food I will beg for and accept and welcome the food of the untouchables. That's quite a thing to say in Indian culture, because traditionally, and still I think very much today, generally, this is one thing people are very conscious of. There's a lot of class consciousness, and there are two main ways that class consciousness comes kind of prominent, and that is eating culture and family relations. So one will eat with certain persons and not eat with other persons, and one will have family relations with certain persons and no family relations with others. So he's saying, I'm going to throw all of that out the window, and I'm just going to chant Ha Radhe, Ha Krishna, and shout. He wants to shout. He's anticipating having such intense feelings for Krishna that he's going to be shouting, Krishna ā'kolāhala. And then begging for just a grain of mercy of the residents of the holy Dham. He's going to take the dust of their feet and live wearing some very simple cloth. And then he's anticipating realizing gaura desh, gaura Vrindavandam. And at that time of realizing the non-difference, then he says, I can be a proper servant of Srimati Radharani. So that's nice. Okay. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Maybe someone has a comment on this song? Anything about this song you would like to comment?
My humble obeisances, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I guess it is not from any outcast or some impious people who would take food, but perhaps it is from the Vrajavasis or the Navadvipa Vasis. You think that would be the proper, what he would like to do?
Well, he specifically says, śwa-paca-gr hete. In the homes, in the houses of the śwa-paca. And śwa-paca is the standard, standard word for what we call untouchable. Māgiyā khāibo, I will beg, having begged at their houses, I will eat, literally. So you could say, well, he's not going to eat anything that they cook, but he's going to beg at their houses. Will he accept anything that they give, like the Buddhists? Maybe it's overgeneralization, but there's this understanding in some Buddhist traditions that in general, Buddhists won't eat meat, or they won't cook. They certainly won't purchase meat. But if someone gives them as they are begging, it's their duty to accept. And why is it their duty? Because it's benefiting the person that is giving. So they consider it a duty to accept whatever comes in their begging bowl, whatever it is. If it's meat, then okay, then we eat. So that's a Buddhist idea. I wouldn't expect our Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur to be thinking like that. But maybe some uncooked rice and some uncooked sabji he would accept, and then go cook himself. Deva Shri Radhika, you have a comment.
Yes, Maharaj, thank you very much. I was just thinking that it's beautiful in this song how Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because when I was reading through the song, it seems that first Bhaktivinoda Thakur expresses that how he wants to let go and forget about the body. And once he forgets about the body, then the bodily considerations, whether you're eating from a dog eater's house or whether you're drinking from the river directly, that doesn't matter, because you lose consciousness of your material body. And then then you come to a stage where you realize you realize the importance of the dust of the Vaishnava's lotus feet. And after that, you come to this realization of how Navadvipa and the Vrajabhumi, and yes, it uses the term gaura-braja-jane, so which means the people of Gaura and Braj. So you don't differentiate between, and you see them as the same, the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So would it be also appropriate to see that these are perhaps the stages that once we are able to overcome our attachments and considerations of the body, that's when we really see Vaishnavas as Vaishnavas and realize their potency and the mercy of the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas. And then only we can see Navadvipa and Vrindavan as non-different.
Yes, I think that's very good. It's a progression. And yeah, the idea of, there's different kinds of seeing. There's the two general divisions of conditional and unconditional seeing. But as you're suggesting, there's he's anticipating, first of all, giving up so many of the conditional forms of seeing, centered in the preoccupations of the body, and considering what is favorable, what is not favorable for the body, and so on. And then but already at that stage, he's calling out, ha Radhe, ha Krishna, bole. So it's very much anticipation of reaching this Siddhi, this perfection. But yes, it's like there is a prerequisite for realizing the non-difference of the people of Gaura and Braja. And the prerequisite is an indifference, deho-sukha chād, giving up the concerns of the body. We're very concerned with our bodies. Have you noticed? I have noticed with myself. Nowadays, especially, we're all, concerned about getting infected with virus and all of these things. So much preoccupation with our bodies. And Bhaktivinoda's giving us a vision of where one is so much elsewhere in one's consciousness that the body, the concerns for the body are really just very not important anymore. And we say, no, not yet. I still have so much to enjoy. Okay, so...
One more thing maybe, Maharaj.
Yes.
This non-difference of the Vrajavasis and the Navadvipa Vasis. That means perhaps that one soul in two places, like Jananivas Prabhu said, our goal in Gaudiya Vaishnavas is actually to be in both places, Navadvip and Vrindavan. One soul in two places. Is that what Bhaktivinoda Thakur mean? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, could be. Yeah. Of course, he was living in Godrumadvip. Whether he was living there when he wrote this song, I don't know, but he seems to have identified a lot with Navadvip. He wrote so much in glorification of Navadvip. And it seems like he very much wanted to see this non-difference. So yeah, we can say like that also, living in both at the same time. I see now you, Deva Shiradika, have looked up the word beda-bo or beda-ibo, means to let out. So to let out a cry or to let go of a cry or to step out crying. Okay, so ha Radhe, ha Krishna, bole, kāńdiyā, Bedabo. So I guess the letting out here is letting out a cry. Mhm. Yeah, good. Okay. Bedabo. I will let out a cry. Okay. Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. So, Hare Krishna, does anyone have something to tell, to show and tell, to tell and show?
Guru Maharaj, Pandava Prabhu has signed up for a presentation, but or sharing, but I'm not pretty sure if I understood properly. There's like some 10 minutes or 10 devotees or something. he didn't wrote it very precisely. So Pandava Prabhu, would you be so kind to unmute and share?
No doubt of somebody else's comment. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj and everyone.
Hare Krishna.
No, we have like 5 minutes, a small Ram Leela, and I need to share the screen. Is that possible?
Yes, Prabhu, you can share, yeah. You just tap on the share screen, green button at the bottom ribbon.
Mm-hmm.
And select the screen you want to share if you have multiple screens open on your laptop. Try once again. Try once again, probably. It was fine. Only you need to keep that particular window selected.
Yeah. Yeah, but it tells me that the file is too big. That spoils everything. The file exceeds the maximum allowed resolution. Gosh. Okay, just a second. I have another copy. That's really not a good way.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Bharat, how are you doing? Yeah, you're muted, so I can't hear you. Oops. Okay, now we're getting the show.
So a few words. This is kind of a lazy show because I have used clips from old cartoon Indian Japanese 92 version. Probably many devotees had seen it, and just use it as a background for little episode when Lord Ramachandra meets Jatayu or finds Jatayu. So sorry for breaking the copyright laws, but what can I say? Sometimes it's maybe just on this in a small group of devotees. Lord Ram and Lakshman looked for Sita and not knowing of her whereabouts, they found finely scattered flowers which Ram recognized as those who had given to Sita. Rama addressed the nearby mountains. Where has Sita gone? After passing this way, not receiving any answer, Rama became very angry and said, "O mighty hill, If you don't reply to me, I will shatter you to pieces with my arrows. Rama's anger grew. Seeing some blood, Rama concluded that Sita was devoured by Rakshasa and said, "No Rakshasa shall escape my vengeance." I will destroy them all. Why demigods have not done something to save my... Do not deliver Sita to me at once. I revenge for their negligence and I will destroy them, the entire universe. Rama's eyes were hot red with anger. His lips, pressed lightly, trembled with rage. Taking his bow, Ram placed an arrow meant for destroying the universe. Lakshman, terrified with joined palms and supplication, pleaded.
Dear Ram, you are gentle, self-controlled, and well-wishing to all living beings. Therefore, please control your wrath and don't act hastily. Let us continue searching for Sita. You know, you must practice forbearance since suffering is inevitable. If you cannot do so, how the common man be expected to be tolerant? Let us find the enemy. No need to destroy entire universe.
Gradually, Lakshman pacified Ram and they continued to search Janasthana. They came upon fallen Jatayu lying in the pool of blood. Rama, fitting an arrow on his bow, said, "Lakshman, it must be Rakshasa who has assumed the shape of an eagle. He has eaten Sita. I'm going to kill him." But getting nearer, Rama recognized Jatayu. He threw his bow aside and seeing helpless position of Jatayu, embraced him and asked, "Tell me everything you know about Sita and her blacktail."
Dear Lord Ram, Sita was abducted by Ravan. I saw him carrying her away. She called me in desperation. "This Rakshasa king is carrying me away. He entered our ashram when I was alone and captured me. Please tell Ram that Ravan carried away his Sita." And she couldn't stop sobbing. I challenged Ravana, shouting, "Rama is not an ordinary man. He is the Lord of the world. You are trying to steal his wife? You should protect women as your sister or mother. Rama hasn't wronged you in any way. You shouldn't do this to him. Give up this madness, else you will regret it. If you persist with your sinfulness, you must fight me first." I attacked Ravan and was pierced by his arrow. I could only use my wings, claws, and beak. I broke his bow and scratched his armor, making his bleed, slowing his chariot. But Ravan rose up in the sky, holding Sita tightly, and fell on me with all his strength and cut off my wings. Falling down, I could hear Sita scream, "Ram, Ram!" And the lotus flowers she wore in her hair fell down too. My dear Ram, do not be taken by grief. You should regain her and kill Rakshasa king. Ravan traveled southwards. The period of time he carried her away is named Vindar Vijaya. It is certain that a lost thing will be found if it is lost or stolen during that time.
Jatayu gasped his last breath, uttering Ram, Ram. Ram fell on the ground, embracing dying Jatayu, and cried as a child, and finally said, Lakshman, we are banished from our country. Now we lost our Sita, and now Jatayu, who was like a father to us. There is no one more unfortunate than me. Jatayu promised to guard Sita when we were in Agastya's ashram. He died for her. Please collect wood. I will cremate him. Ram carried the dead body of Jatayu in his arms and walked to the banks of Godavari. Placing his body on pyre, said, O king of birds, may you reach the heavens meant for those who perform tapas, yagyas, and accumulated punya. Rama ignited the fire and personally performed all rituals reciting verses meant for Radhe. The princess bathed in Godavari and headed south. Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Ram. Jai Jatayu.
Anyway, in the version I wanted to show, there were two very good fitting images of Rama displaying his anger and placing that arrow, and also Jatayu, but for some reason it was too big for the sharing.
Anyway, we can use our imagination how it was. Thank you. That was nice.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo. Yes, of course, we were all celebrating Ram Navami this last Wednesday. So in this way, the celebration continues. It's interesting to me how rich Ram Leela is. Here we've been listening also one devotee in Washington, D.C., who is very knowledgeable of Ram Leela, and it's just one story after another story after another. And each one with a lesson, of course. We have so much also to learn from Ram Leela. Let's see. Brihaspati's giving a link. I guess that's to what we just saw, the cartoon, maybe. Anyway. Okay, the full film, yeah. Yeah, there's so many Ram Leela films. Also, there's a sort of, there's one version that was done a few years back by one lady in America, I believe, called Sita Sings the Blues. It's in cartoon form, and it's Ram Leela, you can say, from the perspective of Sita, but it's Sita in a somewhat, how shall we say, in a somewhat perhaps feminist mood. But it's nicely done, I think. I think it's tastefully done. Anyway, there's so many versions of Ram Leela as well that bring out different features of this story, which we can say has no limits in a way. Okay, so let's see now. Anyone else have something you want to share? Tell us about some news. Any news? Oh, I was asking Bharat. How is Bharat? Hare Krishna. He's plugged in. Okay, I guess the sound doesn't work. He's okay. All right. If there's no one else who wants to share something, then we could go to Chaitanya Charitamrita, which we were about to resume last week when His Holiness Krishna Swami appeared, and that was a very nice treat. I think most of you were here with us. I was actually just asking before he appeared if who had done the homework, and the homework was to read the purports from verse, what was it, 105, I guess, of chapter 7 through maybe 110, something like that. And I was asking if anyone had any comments from any of this. To remind you, the subject here is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meeting with the sannyasis in Varanasi. Oh, what's happening now? Mariada Purushottama is showing us. Oh, okay. Yeah. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is meeting with the sannyasis, and they are, we say in English, they are all ears. They're very eager to hear from Mahaprabhu now his explanation about Vedanta, about the subject which they are spending all their time. You can say when they come together, what do they do? You know, what do devotees do when we come together? We talk about Srimad Bhagavatam, we read Bhagavatam, we read Chaitanya Charitamrita, we read Nectar of Devotion. And speaking of Nectar of Devotion, you may like to know that, of course, you do know, most of you, that it's Prabhupada's summary study, as he called it, of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Srila Rupa Goswami. And maybe I told you this last time, I don't remember now, but it's coming out. I just found out a revised, the translation of His Holiness Bhanu Swami is being revised by Bhanu Swami together with others who are making it a very elaborate, I guess they're doing word for word translation. They're doing an elaborate index. It's going to be published by the BBT, and it's going to be 5 volumes. And the first 3 volumes they're hoping to come out with by the end of this year. So that's something. So sannyasis in Benares do, they read the Upanishads, and they read Vedanta Sutra, and they try to understand the Upanishads through the Vedanta Sutra with commentaries of Shankaracharya and his followers. Incidentally, how many different branches of Advaita Vedanta schools are there following Shankara? My teacher of Tattva Sandarbha told us there's possibly something like 100 different branches. So there's there's lots and lots and lots of different flavors of Shankarite, of non-dualist Vedanta. And here we are with Lord Chaitanya. He's facing all of these, you can say, card-carrying Brahmavadis or even Mayavadis, and they want to hear from him. And what is he saying? Someone was about last time to comment something, but I don't remember who it was. Anybody there who wanted to say something? Maybe you forgot what you wanted to say. Okay, I want to read
Maharaj,
now.
Sorry, Guru Maharaj, it was me asking a question about this. Hare Krishna. About this notion. I've already a little bit forgot, but I remember the fact that it's described how the language of the impersonalist is so potent that it could even distract a pure devotee from his path. So.
Oh yes, we get this warning, isn't it, that we should not even listen to what they say. Is that one of our verses? Or was it in a purport? Maybe it's in the purport. I just read that, but I don't remember now. So your question is, how could it be so potent?
Yes, I mean, bhakti seems, if somebody has achieved already such a high stage of bhakti and, being attracted to Krishna, how could it happen that one wants to go back to just think of nothing or brahmajyoti?
I would say like this, that of course it depends on one's advancement, but in particular for the Komala Bhakta, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, the one whose bhakti is Komala, is delicate, is not strong. Such a person may be particularly endangered. Oh, here I see now verse 109. Gonavritye jeba bhashya korila acharjo tahara shravane nasha hoy sarvakarjo. Shripad Shankaracharya has described all the Vedic literatures in terms of indirect meanings. One who hears such explanations is ruined. Well, let's just take it that it's a warning to be careful. Because on the other side, if you want to become an effective preacher of Vaishnava Vedanta, there's really no way to avoid first having a good understanding of Advaita Vedanta. Because Vaishnava Vedanta is responding to, it is arguing against Advaita. So if you don't know what they're saying and how they're arguing and what their reasoning is, then you won't know how to counter it. And so the general warning is there, be careful. And I would say the main thing is do it in the right association. If you go join the sannyasis in Benares and hear from them, then there's quite a good chance that you would be charmed by their words. But if you hear an explanation from Vaishnavas, and certainly from Mahaprabhu and his followers, Jiva Goswami, that danger doesn't have to be there. But at the same time, it's also a matter of understanding in one sense, this Advaita Vedanta, well, you can say there are two sort of default philosophies in material life. One is that of the Advaita Vedanta, which is ultimately denying the reality of everything, it's denying the reality of ourselves as individuals, denying the ultimate reality of the Supreme Person, and therefore denying the reality of the process of the practice of bhakti. So that's one sort of default. And the other default, we may say, the other extreme, the other tendency is that of the sahajiyya, who identifies him or herself essentially as the enjoyer, as being Radha or Krishna, something like that, and thereby indulging in a sort of, well, slightly sophisticated form of sense gratification. That's an oversimplification, but so these two extremes are there. And what we're looking for is the third option. Oops, somebody's got their microphone on. Okay. The third option, which is eternal service, eternal loving service to the Supreme Lord. And to find that, let's say that access to this, what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita is actually guhyatamam. It is the most confidential. Guhyam guhyatamam vacham. We want to be careful not to get sort of again pulled away into what is, in a sense, a simpler philosophy. It's Advaita Vedanta, which slips easily into Mayavada, is a kind of, it's the easy way. Couple of questions here. Pandava and Bhagavati. If Prakashananda, Saraswati, and Mayavadis were prominent in their times, would they leave any trace of meeting with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or perhaps sannyasis back then didn't bother leaving any notes? Maybe libraries in Benares have it. This is a question which I've asked myself for years. And when I was in Benares, at Benares Hindu University, I was thinking about this. I didn't have opportunity, and I wouldn't have had means of, how would you search exactly? But it certainly would be, one would expect there would be some writings from them that would have left an indication of that meeting and of the conversion. Now, some say that Prakashananda Saraswati, after meeting Mahaprabhu, was converted and, we might say, reinitiated, and he became Prabodhananda Saraswati. That's one theory. I don't believe it's accepted by our acharyas, but some say like that. It makes a nice story, But still, one would like to see something more written, something, historical, something that says, yes, on such and such day, this Vaishnava sannyasi came and we met and we were amazed by how he spoke, and now we all chant Hare Krishna or something like that. Who knows, maybe one day something will be uncovered. It does happen. For example, Mahaprabhu himself discovered in the Adikeshava temple in Kerala this one chapter of the Brahma Samhita. Or more recently, I believe it was the year 1911, so a little over like 110 years ago, someone discovered in a library in Kerala the complete works, the dramas, the Sanskrit dramas of the famous dramatist Bhasa. Before this, he was known to have existed. His dramas were referred to, but nobody knew where are his dramas. And then they were found. Someone found a whole collection, and those have been published, translated also. We studied one of his very short dramas in my second year Sanskrit class, a humorous drama. So sometimes it happens. Something is discovered. The Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered. New archaeological sites are discovered all the time. They're still digging up places in India, Pakistan, and so on. So let's hope. Okay, Avaruta Rai is asking, is it possible to defeat impersonalism once and for all? Some devotees say that the impersonalists will also have strong arguments for defeating personalism. Judging from history, it seems that it's an ongoing debate. And so it would seem that they do have their arguments. And it goes back and forth, back and forth. The impersonalists will write a treatise. Someone else will come and a Vaishnava will refute. The impersonalists will come back and refute that. And so it goes. And we could say, therefore, the Vaishnavas don't spend a whole lot of time with Vedanta, following the example of Mahaprabhu, who said, my guru said I'm not qualified, so I just chant Hare Krishna. Still, we do get what we find here in Chaitanya Charitamrita. We also get the works of Srila Jiva Goswami. And there's an interesting section in the Tattva Sandarbha we've just been reading. Interesting because here we're just reading how Mahaprabhu tells these sannyasis that what is the problem? The problem is that he is giving interpretation of Vedanta using what is called gauna-vritti. There's mukhya vritti and there's gauna-vritti. And then there's also a third category, especially for poetry, dvani. But here he's saying the problem is that he has given this indirect meaning. Gona, you can say, means indirect. instead of taking the direct meanings, he's taking indirect meanings. Now, the plot thickens because Jiva Goswami explains how Vaishnavas take a gona-vritti, indirect interpretation of certain passages in the Upanishads in order to make sense of them. So then one might say, well, wait a minute. I thought Lord Chaitanya said we shouldn't use gona-vritti, and Jiva Goswami says, well, sometimes you have to. So then the impersonalists might come back and say, well, if you're going to do it, we're also going to do it. But that's an interesting point. But let's go on with what we have here. Shankaracharya, this is verse 110. Tahar nahika dosha ishvar agyapaya gaunarta korila mukhya arta achādya. Shankaracharya is not at fault, for it is under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that he has covered the real purport of the Vedas. Achādya, he is covered over. So Mahaprabhu's not blaming Shankaracharya. He says he's just doing his job. What was his job, as one devotee put it? The Buddhists were saying zero, shunyata, shunyavada. Ultimacy is emptiness. Shankara said, no, you got it wrong. It's not zero, it's one. Ultimate reality is one. So we're getting from 0 to 1. And in the process of going from 0 to 1, Shankara is bringing people back to Veda, because with Buddha, there's a rejection of Veda. And so Shankara was doing his job, which was bring them back to the Veda. With faith in the Veda, then they can go from 1 to 2. The 2 being that there is the Ishvara and there is Jiva, and they are both real. They are not unreal. And they are real categories, ontologically real categories. Okay, the next verse. I'm in order to keep to get the sequence of the argument, I'm sort of jumping over the purports, but I'm encouraging you to read the purports. Because there's a lot of important explanation that's filling in here. Verse 111, Brahma Shabde Mukhya Arte Kahe Bhagavan Chit Aishvarja Paripurna Anurdva Shaman. According to direct understanding, so Mukhya Vritti instead of Gona Vritti. According to direct understanding, the absolute truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has all spiritual opulences. No one can be equal to or greater than him. Now, a key phrase here is Chit Aishvarya Paripurna. And this is already the point of departure from classical Advaita, which says there is Brahman, and ultimate reality is Brahman, and that Brahman is simply chit, it is simply consciousness. It is not consciousness of anything. Rather, it is pure consciousness. But here it says, Chit Aishvarya Paripurna, he is full of Aishvarya. And the word Aishvarya, what is it? It is coming from the word Ishvara, which means Lord or Master. And it comes to mean opulence. And so spiritual opulence, Chit Aishvarya Paripurna, he is full of spiritual opulence. And what this means is the Lord, there is the Lord, the absolute reality, which includes his energies, his unlimited energies. For the impersonalist, there's no such thing as Shakti. There's no energies. Now, here I think we do want to look at the purport because Prabhupada quotes what's going to be a super important and many of you will know this verse from Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse 11. Vadanti tattvavidas tattvam yad jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. The absolute truth is and then Prabhupada continues, the absolute truth is ultimately understood as Bhagavan, partially understood as Paramatma, and vaguely understood as the impersonal Brahman. Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is opulent in all excellence. No one can be equal to or greater than him. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Matta parataram nānā kinchidasti dhananjaya. O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, there is no truth superior to me. And he goes on to say, Mahi sarvamidam protam putre sutre manigana iva. Everything is connected to me like so many pearls on a thread. And Prabhupada says there are many other verses which prove that the absolute truth in the ultimate sense is understood to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. In the ultimate sense, because the Mayavadis will say, yes, Krishna, Vishnu is Bhagavan, we agree. And yes, he is the absolute truth, but not in the ultimate sense. And this is the crux of the problem. They will say, yes, bhakti is very nice. You practice your bhakti. It's a good thing because it will help you to realize your actual identity, which is Brahman, which is free of all designations, including being a servant of God. You will simply be non-different. You will be Brahman. No more service. So here, The absolute truth in the ultimate sense is understood to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So that's important. Let's see. Vrindapati is asking, is it safe to say that at one time Hindus were a minority in India? Well, possibly. Of course, at the time that they might have been a minority, they would not have been calling themselves Hindus. The idea of Hindu would have been developing only after those who were invading from northwest, what's now Afghanistan and so on, those were referring to the people of India as Hindu, with reference to the Sindhu River, as is generally accepted. But neither would Buddhists necessarily be thinking of themselves as Buddhists. This may seem strange, but at least the vast majority of people were simply following their dharma, their jati dharma, worshiping their local gods or goddesses, typically a village goddess, on special occasions, maybe other divinities. And they may well have been visiting the Buddhist ashram, or the place where the Buddhist monks were staying. And of course, the Buddhist monks may have been identifying themselves as following Bodha Dharma. But I don't know how much historians have been able to tell, because it's still something of a mystery how it is that Buddhism disappeared from India almost completely by the time of Mahaprabhu, certainly, and possibly before that, although we have reference also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita to Buddhists in South India, and there was some sort of tantric Buddhism going on in Bengal. Avaduta Rai, there is a branch of Buddhism called Vijnanavada. In their Lanka Avatar Sutra, there's a shloka, Nishtabhava Param Brahma. Brahman is the ultimate existence. Okay, possibly. It's always tricky to take statements out of context, just what is it they're arguing? Are they arguing one direction or the other in that case? Dear Lalita is mentioning, it's interesting that Buddhists, Shunyavadis, worship Buddha, the person, the incarnation of Krishna. Do the Mayavadis worship the form of Krishna? Well, yes, Mayavadis may indeed worship the form of Krishna. Worship, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur wrote, he called it Putana Bhakti. They're worshiping like Putana is worshiping. They're approaching Krishna with all sorts of appearance of devotion, but what is the intention? The intention would be to ultimately so-called go beyond. I probably told how I one time just walked into the Shankara Mat in Puri, the famous, it's called, what is it called? Govardhan Mat, it's called, strikingly. I just walked in one afternoon, and it was a kind of large courtyard and no one was there. And I just sort of wandered into the temple. They had a temple. And truth be told, I don't remember who I saw. Certainly they had Lord Shiva, maybe also, I don't remember Krishna being there. Anyway, I sort of wandered out, and then I noticed in one large room off of the courtyard, there was some gathering going on. Someone was speaking, others were listening, and I just sort of listened for a minute or two. They were speaking in Hindi, so I couldn't really follow, but I understood they were speaking about Krishna Lila. And also, I think it was 1995, I went to the Kumbh Mela, or Ard Kumbh Mela, and the ISKCON tent, or pandal, had some exhibits of Krishna Lila, some dioramas and so on. And one of the devotees there told me that he had been involved in the ISKCON project of preaching at Kumbh Mela since several years, Magh Mela, Kumbh Mela. And he said when he was first going there, you didn't see any of the others with dioramas, but since the ISKCON devotees have been making such exhibits, now others were imitating. They were also having their exhibits of, you know, Krishna Lila and so on. So these things are going on. It's mentioned, by the way, by Jiva Goswami in the Tattva Sandarbha that Shankaracharya consciously avoided discussing the Bhagavatam because he understood the Bhagavatam is so exalted. He does not want to tinge, he does not want to spoil the Bhagavatam by his commentary. Yeah. Sugopi Tungavidya is saying, influence of Madhavacharya and Ramanujacharya was immense in South India to convert many to Vaishnavism and seems more recent than the Buddhists living in South India. Yes, Buddhists, of course, are there very much in Sri Lanka. Yes, so Ramanujacharya was, 11th century to 12th century. And then after him, 13th century, I believe, was Madhvacharya. And absolutely true, they were extremely powerful. Shankaracharya is usually attributed to 8th century, the end of the 8th century, I believe. And we understand, Vaishnavas understand, having been sent by the Lord, he's preparing the way for the Vaishnavas. Avadutta Rai says, a bit of fun. Srila Prabhupada says, we are monists. We say Akala Ishvar Krishna. The only Ishvar is Krishna. Mayavadis are dualists. They believe in Brahman and Maya that can cover Brahman. Yes. And we could also take it a step further and say that we are Shunyavadis, because we say, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in his Shikshashtakam, Yugaitam nimeshena chakshusha pravishaitam shunyaitam jagat sarvam Govinda virahena me. This whole world is shunya, is empty in the absence of Govinda. There is a Bhagavata school of Mayavadis that use Bhagavatam to prove Mayavad. Yes. Well, after all, we're living in the age of Kali. This has to be expected. And there are verses in the Bhagavatam, and that's also mentioned by Jiva Goswami, that as he begins to explain how he's going to present his Shatsandarbhas, he says, I'm going to be giving some initial sutras, so to say, of the basic principles that I'm teaching with statements from the Bhagavatam, what are called Vishaya Vakya. And then I'm going to elaborate on the verses of Bhagavatam, which I quote, by quoting from Sridhar Swami. But he says, I'm not going to be indiscriminate about with Sridhar Swami, because sometimes he will say something which he obviously has written in order to attract the Mayavadis or the impersonalists. So Sridhar Swami is sort of playing along a narrow line. Generally, he says, he is giving a good Vaishnava explanation, but sometimes not. And Jiva Goswami says, I'm going to ignore those statements. Chittakarani, you have your hand up. You are muted, so we can't hear you. You don't know how to unmute? If you go to the bottom of the screen and to the left.
No, she can unmute. It was locked. My apologies.
Okay.
Sometimes by the host it has been locked, and so sometimes we can't do anything. Yeah. Hare Krishna, please accept my respectful obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
My question is, just yesterday I was speaking with Andrea Yuvaraj, and he asked me about which kind of other forms Krishna may have. And I said there can be forms infinite. And like what he said is that it could be energy, and some think that God is universe, some things that God is light, and also Krishna is light, there is his light. And then he asked me more about how this light is, and then so I really don't know. This is what I want to ask. I said that there you are comfortable, there's no problems, no issues, no material problems, anything. You are so peaceful, and you just feel the love of Krishna, but you just feel it. And then, but there is no mommy, no father, no mother, no friends, anything, any relationship. You're just alone. So, but I don't know if this is true or not. I just make a speculation, and I don't know if I give the correct answer or what should I say. What is it like being in Krishna's light, in his energy?
So the question is about what would be the experience of being in the Brahma Jyoti? Is that the question?
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
I don't know what it would be like because I don't think I've experienced it. At least I don't remember. But we can get a vague idea, you know, as an analogy when you go, when it's, well, when it's very dark and then suddenly you turn on a very bright light. You're sort of blinded for a short time. So it seems to be one way of understanding it would be like being in a sort of blinding light. But the idea of the impersonalists is that when you, and they do speak of merging with Brahman, there's no longer the sense of I as one who knows, and there's no object that one knows. So there's not the jnana, there's no jnana gyeya distinction between what is known and knowledge and oneself. So there's no distinction between being a knower and knowing something. So that's how to comprehend that. And Jiva Goswami is going to say that, I don't know if it's in the Bhagavat or Paramatma Sandarbha, that when there's knowledge, there's always got to be an object of knowledge. And that means there's going to be a distinction. But still, in the Bhagavatam, we do have these three ways of expressing or understanding ultimate reality, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And if you think about it, these are quite comprehensive. I think one could take any theological tradition and see how they might be comprehended by one or more of these expressions. We're getting a lot of comments here. Sugopi is saying, I heard that merging with Brahma Jyoti, one is frozen, and no service to offer to Krishna. Well, yes, there wouldn't be any awareness of Krishna's existence, and there wouldn't be an awareness of being distinct as one who could give service. So yeah, you could speak of it, I suppose, as a kind of being frozen. We could probably have other sorts of analogies. Rindapati, you have your hand up also.
Please accept my obeisances, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
My question is that some people in the Gaudiya tradition, in the other Gaudiya traditions, believe that we all originated from the Brahman originally and then came into this world. And as sadhana bhakti, following the process of sadhana bhakti, we go back to the spiritual sky. If information that says that we originally come from the spiritual sky and we fell from there and therefore we're returning back. Could you please clarify this, because this has always been a topic of discussion.
You've just opened Pandora's box. And the short answer to your question is No, I'm not going to get into it for two reasons. One is a philosophical reason, and the other is a reason of time, because I want to say something about our Brahman initiation before we end. The philosophical reason is, it's actually quite simple, is that we don't have the capacity. I mean, what you just described may be one way of describing what's going on, but it's, I would say, a very crude expression. Whether you say like this or like this, these are kind of crude expressions because we simply cannot, with our minds, comprehend, nor can we comprehend with words what it means that we are fallen. Whether we try to make it historical, that once upon a time, and now here we are, or we say anadi, since time immemorial, in neither case can we comprehend. And what I see from Srila Prabhupada's writings is it's not either or, it's both and. And to comprehend the both and is not something we like, because we tend to like either or, because it's easier for our minds. But that's really all I want to say about that now. I think it's a mystery, and mysteries, the deeper you go into a mystery, the deeper it gets. And that's wonderful. Let's see, Deva Shiradika, you also had your hand up.
Yes, Maharaj, thank you very much. I just wanted to briefly, I had a comment on what Karuni mentioned, because she mentioned how she was explaining to this person of how
her son, who is, how
when you
old
are
is
in
he?
the Brahmajyoti, you don't have a mother, father, brother. Oh.
Her 9, how old is he now? 9 or 10 years old?
Now, just recently 10 years old.
Oh.
10. Yeah, so he's a very inquisitive boy. He's very bright. But please, go ahead.
Yes. So while you were explaining to your son about this loneliness when you are in the Brahmajyoti, and I got reminded of one time I heard in Prabhupada's lecture where he also mentions that why is it that people reach the Brahmajyoti and they fall down, because it is very lonely. And the way we are, we have the tendency to serve and be in relationships. And that is why Brahmajyoti is not meant for us. So yeah, I mean, although you said it was speculation, but it actually wasn't. You were quite correct in saying that it gets lonely and therefore we don't really want Brahmajyoti.
It's lonely, and it's boring.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. We're going pretty slowly, but that's okay. I think, and of course, you're all welcome to read ahead and read comments, Prabhupada's purports, and note down anything you want to talk about next time. Good. So now we're very happy to announce that Dhyana Chandrika Devi Dasi and Hari Vyasadeva Das, mother and son, are going to be joining husband and father in having, he already has from his Guru Maharaj Sachinandan Swami, His Holiness Sachinandan Swami. They'll be receiving the Brahman or second initiation. And they're, well, I think they're quite excited about this. Are you excited about this? They're having smiles from one ear to the other, so. They are at Golokadam in Germany. They're going to have lots of opportunity to serve Shri Radha Madan Mohan. And this is, of course, one of the, how shall I say, one of the perks of Brahman initiation. The idea being that we worship the Lord in many different forms. One of the forms, the deity form, following the rules of Pancharatra, especially in temple worship and following high standards, the deity is worshipped in the deity form together with the chanting of these mantras, which are of two sorts. There is one Vedic mantra, and there are 6 Pancharatrika mantras. What I want to say briefly is that, as with the Maha Mantra, we want to make it a practice. We are practicing as we are chanting these mantras, which are, for those of us who are chanting these mantras, a kind of support for chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. In other words, the Gayatri mantras, including Mula mantras that we get, are they are aiding, they are supporting, and especially it can be said they are helping us to be in the mode of goodness. And they're also recognizing in a sort of formal way something that we pray when we chant, when we sing the Gurvashtakam, the final verse, Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, Yasya prasadan nagati kutopi. And then the second half of the verse, Dhyayang stuvang stasya yashas trisanyam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam. So Dhyayan, meditating on the yasha, on the glory, we can say, of the Guru, when Trisandhyam, during the 3 sandhyas of the day, morning, midday, and evening. And so we can say, in that sense, central to this meditation, which we do 3 times a day, ideally 3 times a day, and I will discuss that with you when we meet a little later. It's structuring our day in relation to Krishna. It's adding a structure to our day, which is tied very much to the movement of the sun. And indeed, the worship of the sun, but more specifically Surya Narayana, is especially identified in the chanting of the first mantra that you'll be receiving. But beyond these technicalities, what are we doing with Brahman initiation? We are supposed to be acknowledging our aim of acting within, or making our lives what Prabhupada called Brahminical culture. We're affirming the qualities by which the Brahmins work. Samodamata bosocham kshantirarjavamevacha jnana vijnanam astikyam brahma karma svabhavacham. And by that, then, we are representing our whole mission. What Prabhupada often would say is that he wanted to introduce Brahminical culture Brahminical culture into the Western world. I would say into the whole world, because including India, where it's slipping away so much. So I want to read a little passage from Satchidananda Swami's book, the Gayatri book. This is, let's see, page 112, in which he's talking about manana, because manana is a process of reflecting on. And he says, Gayatri is meant to help us achieve this perfection of manana. For this end, one should practice the following 6 steps while chanting the Gayatri mantras. First, one should remember the meaning of the mantras. And there's much elaboration on the meaning of the mantras in this book. Second, one should search out the mantra devatas, the deities of the mantras, in meditation. And each of the mantras have different devatas that one meditates on. Third, one should meditate on one's relationship with these deities. One should be reflecting, what is my relationship? Fourth, one should take exclusive shelter at their lotus feet. Fifth, one should practice the 6 limbs of Sharanagati. That's overlapping with number 4, we can say, which then leads to the final step, which is number 6, one should practice the path of Atma-nivedana, full self-surrender without reservation, which we could say is another way to put this last one, becoming Krishna's yes men or women, saying yes to Krishna. So this is the opportunity, and of course, Prabhupada very mercifully and rather controversially gave this opportunity for all of us. It was specifically this which he was criticized for, giving Brahmin initiation to persons from śwa-pacas to śwa-pacas, persons from outside the culture altogether. And Prabhupada was completely firm on this point, that we are becoming Vaishnava, and Vaishnava is beyond Brahmana, and therefore the Brahmana initiation is given to show recognition, to acknowledge that indeed. Now, making this initiation, as with first initiation, is a commitment. And I was just listening to a very nice explanation of the encounter, the first encounter between Lord Rama and Sugriva. And it's explained that it's a longer story how they met, but finally when when Sugriva understood that Rama was not his enemy, but rather his friend, and he was greatly relieved, and he recognized, and Rama recognized, that they both have so much in common. They've both lost kingdoms, they've both lost their wives, and they're both in this miserable condition. They decided, let's be friends. And then Rama said, yes, and let's confirm it by having a fire, and let us circumambulate the fire. because he knew that monkeys tend to forget their promises. So we are all in a similar condition in this age of Kali, and therefore it's good. Now we're not having the fire yagya, but we can understand at some time it will be good to have the fire yagya because it will help us to fix our commitment, our ongoing commitment. And it's a wonderful commitment indeed, the opportunity to directly serve the Lord. Prabhupada says when we are chanting Hare Krishna, we're directly serving the Lord. When we worship the deity, we are directly worshiping the Lord. But all of this is only possible. Why? Because the acharyas are giving us permission. They are allowing us to do this. So that's all I wanted to say for now. We'll say something more in private, so to say, a little later. But for now, if all the devotees could unmute and give your blessings to Dhyana Chandrika and Hari Vyasadeva, I'm sure they'll be very happy.
Hari Hari
Bo.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna be with you always. Hare Krishna, all the best in your service. Radha Madhava. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna.
Now, after you're Brahman initiated, they're all going to be inviting you to their places to preach and to worship their deities. So watch out.
Welcome.
Yes. Yeah, they're going to, Nandi Mukhi is going to be calling you and say, please come and worship Nrsingadev.
Yes, sure.
And Donna Kaylee is going to say, please come to Munich and worship Sadhu-bhavan. Right?
Donna Kelly.
Okay, so I will say thank you all so much for joining together as we're doing. Have a wonderful week. And one more thing, please, please pray intensely for His Grace, our very dear Pankajangri Prabhu, whose condition with COVID is very serious. He's in Calcutta in the hospital at present. They're considering to move him back to Mayapur, where they have now similar facility, but his condition has been, he has been needing increasing amount of oxygen, and it's looking quite serious. So please offer prayers for him. I didn't want to end on a sad note, but let's say everything is possible for Shri Panchatattva, Shri Radha, Madhava, and especially Nrsingadev in Mayapur, whom he has been worshiping all these many years. Okay, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavarinda ki jai. Jai Gaura Premanande.
Haribo.
Guru Maharaj ki jai.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Guru Maharaj ki jai.
Hare
Jai Gurudev.